शङ्करांश भूम शङ्करार्यपीठसद्गुरुन् शुद्धसत्त्वभासुरान् सुवर्त्मनीतभूसुरान् सर्वभूतसौख्यदान् क्षमाकरान् यतीश्वरान्
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् श्रीहरिं परमानन्दम् उपदेष्टारमीश्वरं व्यापकं सर्वलोकानां कारणं तं नमाम्यहम् अपरोक्षानुभूतिर्वै प्रोच्यते मोक्षसिद्धये सद्भिरेव प्रयत्नेन वीक्षणीया मुहुर्मुहुः ಮೊದಲನ್ ಸೆವೆಂತ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ ನೋಡಿ ಓದ್ ಶ್ಲೋಕ ಸಿದ್ಧಂ ಸಿದ್ಧಂ ಅಂತ ಶುರುವಾಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ.
ಸಿದ್ಧಂ ಯತ್ ಸರ್ವಭೂತಾದಿ ವಿಶ್ವಾಧಿಷ್ಠಾನಂ ಅವ್ಯಯಂ ಯಸ್ಮಿನ್ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಃ ಸಮಾವಿಷ್ಟಸ್ ತದ್ವೈ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಸನಂ ವಿದುಹು. Siddham, famously known, yet which sarvabhutadi, the beginning of all beings, Vishwadhishthanam, the substratum of the entire world, Avyayam, immutable, Yasmin, in which Siddhaha, the enlightened, Samavishtaha, completely merged, Tat, that, by, alone, Siddhasanam, as Siddha Asana, Viduhu, no.
So after having spoken about asanam, asanam is actually the abode of Brahman itself. So asanam literally means a seat, a comfortable seat for doing contemplation on Brahman in the yoga context. But here in the Vedantic context, the Acharya says that asanam is Brahman itself, where one has to posit himself in Brahman, take a comfortable seat in Brahman. That means he has to identify himself with Brahman and contemplate that everything is in Brahman. So here in the next shloka, the Acharya is giving the idea that there is something called Siddhasana. In Yoga Shastra, there is called Siddhasana. For that, he is giving the that concept also is being brought into this Vedantic fold. So he says, Siddhanam asanam is Siddhasanam. That is, the Siddhas, that is the people who have attained Brahman, they posit themselves in the Brahma Swarupam itself. So that is called Siddhasanam. Or we can also say that Siddham cha tadasanam. That is, this asanam is always Siddha. That is, it is always available for contemplation or available for our Brahman Vyavahara. That is, Brahma. All Brahma connected sadhana. So that kind of Siddhasanam is also being, we can give that meaning also for this Siddhasana. So Siddhasanam means Brahman itself, and Siddhasana means the Brahman in which Siddhas always take refuge, or they always resort to Brahman and remain in Brahman. So that is called Siddhasana. So here in the next shloka, okay. So after having seen this Siddhasanam, there is another thing called Mulabandha. Mulabandha is another technique in Yoga Shastra where the anus part is pulled inside, and that kind of there is an exercise for that. So that is called Mulabandha in Yoga Shastra. But here the Mulabandha is given a different meaning. Shloka Odivaga 114.
Yen moolam sarva bhutanam, yen moolam chitta bandhanam, moolabandha sada sevyo, yogosau raja yoginam. Yen moolam, that which is the root, sarva bhutanam, of all existence, yen moolam, on which is rooted, chitta bandhanam, the restraint of the mind, moola bandha, the restraining root, sada, always, sevyaha, to be practiced, yogaha, yoga, asau, this, Raja Yoginam, of the Raja Yogins.
Okay. So, yan moolam sarva bhutana. See, here in Vedantic sense, bhuta is the panchabhutas. So, the bhuta, the origin or the source of panchabhutas is Brahman. So, atmana akasha sambhutaha akashad vayu vayoragnihi agnirapaha adhyah prithvi prithivya oshadaya. So, that series is there. So, from Brahman alone, all panchabhutas, they are sourced. That is, they come out, they take their origin from Brahman, or we can say that Brahman is the karanam. That is, the Brahman is a cause for all the panchabhutas. So here, in this sense, we have to contemplate on the whole cosmos is actually having Brahman as its cause. So here in the shloka, he says, yan moolam sarvabhutanam, yan moolam chitta bandhanam. So chitta bandhanam, the chitta is the mind, the antakarana. So the antakaranam also is having its source in Brahman alone. So contemplating that everything is in Brahman and contemplating even the chitta is actually lapsed in Brahman. So that kind of exercise is called Mula Bandha here in this context. Mula Bandha sada sevyaha. It has always to be resorted to. Yogyaha asau Raja Yogina. For all the Raja Yogins, that is the people who are in this path of Vedantic sadhana, it has to be practiced. So this is very, very suitable for the practice of Vedantic sadhana. So in the commentary, the Acharya is giving some very good inputs here. Okay. So, Chitta Bandhanam, Atha Moolabandham Lakshayati Yen Moolamiti. Akashadi Sarvabhutanam Yen Moolam Adi Karanam Brahma Tatha Chitta Bandhanam. Chittasya Bandha Karanam Moolajnanam Tadapi Yen Moolam Yadashrayam Pritak Satta Shunyatvad. So for Chitta Bandhanam, he is given the meaning that he is taking the meaning of Bandha. Bandha means is actually bondage. So the bondage for the antakaranam is actually ajnana. Ajnana is the root cause for all samsara. So contemplating that the ajnanam is the cause for all samsara, and the way we have to contemplate on Brahman is that Brahman is actually the cause of the entire samsara, entire prapancha. So the karya karana ananyatva is also is indicated here. So the karanam is Brahman and the karyam is this whole prapancha, and ajnana is the karanam for samsara. So this ajnana is lapsing in Brahman. That means ajnana doesn't have a existence apart from Brahman. So when contemplated like this, the situation of a liberated state, that is mukti, is actually can be experienced by the aspirant here. So that kind of practice is being suggested here. So chittasya bandhakaranam mulajnanam tadapi yan moolam yadashriyam pritaksatna shunyatvat. So ajnanam does not have an existence apart from Brahman. So in the actually even in the, there is a very nice shloka composed by our Sadashiva Brahmendra in Atma Vidya Vilasa, where the evolution of Panchabhutas we know Atman Akasha Sambhutaha Akashad Vayu. There the involution is being suggested in that shloka. There the Panchabhutas are actually brought back to Brahman, and before the last one, that is the Akasha, that is the Akasha is the last one. When you do the involution, Akasha is the last one. When the evolution is there, Akasha is the first one. In while doing the involution, opposite, Akasha is the last one. And for Akasha, there is the cause. And that cause is Ajnana or Mula Prakriti. So that Mula Prakriti is the one which is the subtlest, subtler than even Akasha. And that Mula Prakriti has its basis, that is Adhishtanam in Brahman. So when we make that kind of a contemplation, then all that is being lapsed into Brahman does not have an existence apart from Brahman. So that means it is mithya. That is, it is called Badhayam Samanadikaranyam, where that equation, the Rajatam or silver is actually the shell. So silver is not actually shell. But here in this context, the silver is, the shell alone is wrongly seen as silver. So when the right knowledge arises about the shell, that is the Adhishtanam, that is the substratum there, the silver is known to be are not different from Shat. So in this way, here also, Ajnana and its effect, that is samsara, is known is now known to be Brahman itself. That is, it does not samsara or prapancha, that is the stula prapancha and the samsara, they do not have an existence apart from Brahman. So that is the contemplation in Mula Bandha. So Yadva, he is giving another meaning. Yadva chittasya bandhanam ekatra lakshye nigraha tadapi yanmulam yasya brahmanaha prapti nimittam ityartaha. So the second meaning is chittasya bandhanam ekatra lakshye nigraha. That is the bandhanam of chitta. That is the restraint of the mind. Bandhanam is now restraint of the mind. See, the earlier meaning is bandhanam means bondage, but here bandhanam means restraint. That is chitta nirodha. Chitta nirodha has to be done. So the chitta ekasmin lakshya, ekatra lakshya. So the lakshya is our Brahman itself. So focusing chittam, focusing the antakaranam on Brahman is now what is entered. What is the meaning of now? That is the meaning of chitta bandha. So chitta chittasya bandhanam ekatra lakshya nigraha tadapi yan moolam yasya brahmanaha prapti nimittam ityartaha. So that focusing mind on Brahman, that is on one object or one goal or one ultimate that is to be attained. So focusing it on that will be the cause for attaining Brahman. So that is a moolam for attaining Brahman. So here the chitta bandham is called Mula Bandha. So that Mula Bandha is actually derived by this way, in this way. That is focusing the mind on Brahman, and that itself is the Mula, that is the cause for attaining Brahman. So Brahmanaha prapti nimittam ityartaha. So Mula Bandha ityanvayah. So Raja Yoginam vyavaharepi avikshipta chittata lakshanaha Raja Yogaha. So here the word Raja Yoga is given a different meaning also here, because the word is contained in the shloka. So now the object of the commentator is to give the meaning, Vedantic meaning for these words. So Raja Yoginam, that means Vyavaharepi avikshipta chittata lakshanaha Raja Yogaha. So even in Vyavahara, even when the Jnani is doing Vyavahara, his mind is always focused in Brahman. So the aspirant also has to do that only. Even when he is engaged in Vyavahara, he has to bring the mind, that is focus the mind on Brahman, keep the mind focused on Brahman. Chittata avikshipta chittata lakshanaha, that is without vikshepa, without without the error of the mind distracted to other things. Chittata avikshipta chittata lakshanaha Raja Yogaha tadvatam jnana paripaka yuktanam. So those who have accomplished this state of being in the Vyavahara but yet being focused on Brahman, those people are called Raja Yogis in this sense. In the sense of Yoga Shastra, Raja Yogis will be the ones who are practicing Raja Yoga. Whereas here, the meaning is different. That is Vedanta sadhana. Those people are called Raja Yogis. So Raja Yoga also is getting a different meaning. That is, even in Vyavahara, a person's mind is focused on Brahman without giving room for distraction. Okay, next shloka Vodi.
Anganam samatam vidyat same brahmani liyate noche-naiva samanatvam rujutvam shushka vrukshavat. Anganam, of the limbs, samatam, equipoise, vidyat, should know, same, homogeneous, brahmani, in the truth, liyate, is merged, noche, otherwise, na, not, eva, verily, samanatvam, equipoise, rujutvam, straightness, shushka vrukshavat, like a dried up tree.
So Anganam samatam vidyat. Anga is actually Anga means parts. That is parts of the body. Anganam samatam vidyat same brahmani liyate. So here the shloka is a little complicated. That's what the commentator things. So we will get into the commentary straight away. So Anganam Samatam Vidyat Same Brahmani Liyate No Chet Naiva Samanatvam Rijutvam Shushka Vrikshavate. So here the idea is to keep the parts of the body focused on Brahman. So that is the physical, that is a stula, gross meaning we get. But then there is a subtle meaning into the shloka that's being explained in the commentary. Idanim Deha Samyam Lakshayati. Deha Samyam means the equipoised nature of the body. So even in yoga also, the body, when a person sits for meditation, the head, the torso, the chest and all that should be in one line. So there should not be any bend in that. There should not be any crookedness in that. So it has to be in one line. So that is called chittata, diha chittata. So here a slightly different meaning is given here. Deha samyam lakshayati anganam iti. Anganam brahmani adhyasthanam swabhava vishamanam adhisthana samatva drishtiya tam samatam vidyat janiyat chet same brahmani. So here he says the body parts are all actually superimposed in Brahman. So Brahman is the adhishthanam for all the body parts. So contemplating that the body parts are all, see, the body parts by themselves are swabhava vishamana. So they are not of the same nature. The head is of a different nature, the shoulders are of a different nature, the each part, each limb is of the different nature. So they are not sama, they are vishama only. So now we have to accomplish samatvam. How do we accomplish samatvam? Even though the body parts are of different nature or not of equal, or there's no equality there, still the adhishthanam is same for all of them. So the head is superimposed on the on Brahman, the hand is superimposed on Brahman, the leg is superimposed on Brahman. So that way, even though the head, hand, legs are all different from each other, all of them have one thing in common, and that common element is, or factor is, that they are all superimposed on Brahman. So Brahman is the basis for all of them. So that kind of a thinking is required here. Anganam Brahmani Adhyasthanam Swabhava Vishamanam the Adhisthana Samatva Drishtiya. So for them, for all of them, which are naturally distinct from each other, they are unequal, they are not equal to each other, but still they have got one same common factor, that is Brahman is the Adhisthana for all of them. So Adhisthana Samatva Drishtiya Samatam Vidyat. So that way all the bodies have to be, all the parts of the bodies have to be seen as one only. Samatam vidyat janiyat chet same brahmani anga vaishamyam ityatra adhyahara. So you see, actually anga vaishamyam is there, that is the body parts are all different in nature. So that kind of situation has to be overcome now. That is tachet no liyate samabrahma rupataya na tishtati ityartaha. So if the body is not seen as focused on Brahman, that is not seen as superimposed on Brahman or supported Brahman by Brahman, tarhi iti yatra sheshasha shushka vrikshavate anganam rijitvam saralatvam asinchalatvam cha yat samanatvam yat tat samanatvam naiva bhaved it samadaha. So what he says is, from the shloka, if the body parts are not to be seen as having a common ground, a common factor, that is Brahman as the Adhishthanam, what will happen is the body parts will not be will be seen as different only, and what will not be accomplished is they will not be the sameness cannot be accomplished. And for that sameness, an example is given here. The example given in the shloka is a dried tree. See, a tree which is alive, which is alive with the juice and all that, is of a the branches will be of a different nature, the trunk will be of a different nature, the leaves will be a different nature and all that. But then when it is dried, everything will be of an equal nature. That is, it will be one whole being, which is not crooked and all that. So even though to see it will be crooked, but still it is one stiff object. So that's what is being intended here. Shushka vrikshavate anganam rijitvam. So it is one straight line. Saralatvam achanchalatvam cha. So achanchalatvam. So when it is not dried, there will be chanchalam also. That is there will be movement and all that. Whereas when it is dried, there won't be movement also. It will be one log. That kind of a situation has to be thought of here. So the body also has to be thought of that nature. So it's samatva, yet is samatvam, samanatvam, naiva bhaved iti sambandha. So anganam vishama swabhavatvad iti bhavaha. So because the body parts are all of a different nature by them, among themselves, between themselves, the idea is here to see that the body is completely superimposed on Brahman. So when that is thought of, the different differences in the body parts will be given up. That is, will be transcended. So the hand is also not different from Brahman. The head is also not different from Brahman. So that way, everything, all the body parts are actually Brahman alone. So that kind of a contemplation is spoken of here in this shloka 115. 116 could have next to Odana. Drishtim.
Drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat sa drishtihi paramodara na nasagra avalokini. Drishtim, the vision, jnanamayim, full of knowledge, kritva, making, pashyed, should see, brahmamayam, as pure consciousness, jagat, the world, sa, that, drishtihi, vision, paramodara, noble, na, not, nasagra avalokini, seeing the tip of the nose.
So here this is a very, very nice shloka. It is worthy of committing to memory and contemplating whenever we feel like. It brings us into a very nice mood also. Drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyet brahmamayim jagat. So this statement has been made by some Ramana Maharshi also. When someone asked a question, he made this. He gave this as a reply, and he has taken this line from this shloka only. From this shloka only. So here he says, the Acharya says, drishtim. So drishti is actually in Yoga Shastra. Drishti samatvam is focusing the eye, the sight on the tip of the nose. So that is the physical way. So even in the Gita also that kind of a thing is indicated. But here the whole practice gets a different meaning altogether. It takes us to a different dimension altogether. And here he says the samatva drishti is seeing Brahman as everything. So that is the samadrishti here, intended samadrishti here. So drishtim jnanamayam kritva pashyet brahmamayam jagat. So making the drishti, normally the drishti will be when we use the organs, that is in jnanendriyas. So what happens is the physical objects alone will be grasped by the indriyas. The indriyas will be are the instruments through which we grasp the shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha, that is a physical world. But here the drishti has to be made jnanamaya. So the drishti, whatever we see, has to be seen as Brahman alone. So that way, whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we taste, everything is converted to Brahman now. So that contemplation is being taught here. So drishtim jnanamayam kritva pashyet brahmamayam jagat. So instead of seeing a world of shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha, one has to see the whole world as Brahman itself, brahmamayam jagat. Sa drishtihi paramodara na nasagra avalokini. So this kind of drishti alone is the highest drishti, the exalted nature of drishti, but then not the one where you direct your eyesight on the tip of the nose for contemplation. So that is not what is meant here. So in the commentary, the Acharya says, Idanim drikstitim lakshayati drishtimiti. Brahmani phalavyapti abhavayapi vritti vyapyatvat drishtim antakarana vrittim jnanamayim akanda brahmakaratam kritva jagat sarvam brahmamayam pashyet. So we have to develop the akandakara vritti, and through that vritti we have to see everything as Brahman. That is, we have to know everything as Brahman. It's not simply seeing, it's only actually knowing. So Brahmani palavyapyatva abhavyapi. So here he is bringing in a concept which is detailed in the Panchadashi also very nicely. So here there are two terms, palavyapti and vritti vyapti. So the difference between the two are given in the Panchadashi itself. So here also we can recall that. So see, in every knowledge experience, that is in every perception, when I see a pot outside, the eyes, the mind, the manovritti, it goes out of the body through the instrument, that is the eye. and it reaches the pot outside, and it pervades the pot. And when this happens, the Pramatra Chaitanyam, that is the person who has directed all this, and the Pramana Chaitanyam, that is the Antakarana Vritti, which is going through the Chakshurindriyam, and the Prameya Chaitanyam, that is the outside object, that is a pot. When all these three things come in one line, the person is said to have known the pot. So when this happens, when this Ghatakara Vritti happens in his mind, the Sakshi or the Atman illumines the whole thing. And when that happens, the person says, I know the pot. So I have known the pot. So this is called the normal perception experience, perception mechanism. So in this, what the Acharyas have shown is, since the pot Akara Vritti is Jada Vritti, it has to be illumined by the Sakshi so that the person can get it converted to a Jnanam. That is Ghatakara Jnanam, Gata Jnanam. But then when the Vritti is Brahmakara, is Atma or Atmakara Vritti, then since that Vritti, the content of that Vritti is Brahman or Atman, which is self-luminous, that is Swaprakasha Vastu, it doesn't need the illumining by the Sakshi. So the Vritti itself is self-luminous because of the Antakaranam, or because of the Atman or Brahman, which is the content of that Vritti. So when it is the pot which is the content of that Vritti, it is Jada, so that and because of that, the Atman's illumination is required. Whereas here, the Atman's illumination is not required on the Vritti. The Vritti itself is Swaprakasha because of Atman being the bring the content of the Vritti. So that is called Akandakara Vritti. So in this, when Atmakara Vritti is there, the Phala Vyapti is not there, only Vritti Vyapti is there. So Phala Vyapti is required only when it is a Jadakara Vritti, and the Atman's illumination is required for enabling the person to get the Jnanam of the object. But here, that is not the case, because Atman itself is self-luminous. The Akandakara Vritti itself is self-luminous Vritti. So the illumination from the Atman is not required. So that is called just Vritti Vyapti is enough for Atmakara Vritti, whereas Phala Vyapti is also required for any other non-Atman Akara Vritti. So he is bringing that concept here. Brahmani Phala Vyapti Abhavepi Vritti Vyapti Vyapyatvat Drishtim Antakarana Vrittim Jnanamayim Akandakaram Kritva. So normally our Drishti will be Antakarana Vritti is called Drishti here. So the Antakarana Vritti will take this one or the other form of the objective world only. But here, because of the practice of the person, he is by effort making the Vritti Akandakara Vritti or Atmakara Vritti. So in this case, it will become Jnanamayi Vritti. So when the Vritti is made Jnanamaya Vritti, then he will see the whole world as Jnana Swarupam itself, Brahma Swarupam itself. So Jagat Sarvam Brahmamayam Pashyate. So for that, he is giving a nice Mundakopanishad passage. Brahmaivedam Amritam Purastat, Brahma Paschat, Brahma Purastat, Brahma Dakshinataha, Uttarataha. So everything is Brahman. So Brahma Vishwamidam Jagate. So here that mantra says that whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever you contemplate, or whatever you perceive in the whole world is actually Brahman itself. So front, back, up, down, everything is Brahman. And naturally, the person who sees this also is Brahman. So apart from Brahman, there is nothing else. That is the idea conveyed by that mantra. So he quotes that mantra also here. Pramevedam sarvam yetavan matraiva dhritihi karya iti bhavaha. So a person has to constantly bring in this idea, even in his vyavahara, when he is doing the vyavahara, and that Brahmamayam Jagat has to be his normal vyavahara. So it is not Shabdasparsha Rupamayam Jagat he is interacting with. He has to bring in this idea that he is interacting with Brahmamayam Jagat. So here in that case, the interacting person will be Brahman, the interacted object will be Brahman, and everything will be Brahman. The predicate also will be Brahman. Subject, object, predicate, everything is Brahman. So that is what is contained in this sloka, beautiful sloka. Drishtim Jnanamayim Kritva Pashyet Brahmamayam Jagate. Sa Drishtihi Paramodara the Nasagra Avalokini. So the first line is what is very, very crucial. So here we will end this session. There was some mix up in the tab, and so I lost a lot of time then. We will end this session here. Sriharim Paramanandam Padeshtaramishwaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham Aparokṣānubhūti Prochate Moksha Siddhaye Sadbhireva Prayatnena Vikshaniya Muhurmuhu Vidyabhine Sampannam Vedaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvagnam Vidushekara Bharati Om Tat Sat.